think for me it was really a penny drop, because at NAB we'd done a lot of diversity training, and there was a lot of theory that we went through, and it was one particular lunch where I went to where you walk into the room like this, and I always get to things traditionally early, and one of the first people there, and I had to go out and take a call, which led for about 15 minutes, and by that time the room filled up. And when I got back into the room, it was a sort of a senior leader heads of tax lunch, and looking around the room, there was essentially, I think I counted them, there was 38 men and 2 women, and the 2 women were sort of up one end of the room, because there were various groups that had formed, etc. And I looked across, and I looked at the one particular, and I didn't know this person at the time, and just the look on her face was this sort of, because the groups had formed, various conversation groups, etc. And it was just that look of vulnerability which really brought it home to me that, well, hang on, that could be my Madeline, who's now nearly 9 years old, but in another 10 years, 11 years, etc., that could be her. We are, or I am, mainly exerting a lot of influence over our suppliers, because being NAB, we spend a lot, from time to time on professional services. So, really looking to disrupt what I call the points of power within the profession. So, for example, when we have an assignment that we put out for tender, we meticulously go through the team and work out, who's on the team, with obviously get the right balance, a fair balance, but also we look to take a personal interest as a company in the particular professionals on the assignment, and track their careers through the firm and make sure that they're getting a fair go. So, because I guess from a grassroots perspective, you look at it like one of the first points of power is the person that gets allocated to the big NAB job will trot in at the end of the year, and generally looks good on their particular performance, they go up, etc., or should go up. So, it's looking to sort of disrupt those various points of power. Another one is, we take a keen interest in, well, okay, what are the firms obviously doing around diversity? We basically do almost like an audit. We ask them, show us what you're doing. We want to see it. We want to see who's being allocated to conferences, like who goes on that speaker circuit, who gets to go to the lunches, etc. Because my experience is they are the various points of power, because if you get to go to a conference, then you make a relationship, or you get to give a paper. If you go to a networking event, you get to meet a new contact. So it's making sure that everybody that works on the NAB account essentially has an equal opportunity at those various points of power in the tax profession, or those points where progression has historically been obtained.
Can I also just ask you, and I know when we were exchanging emails about today, you mentioned that you thought it was, we should be honing in on this sector. Obviously, it is a conference for women in tax. Are there particular issues in the sector that need to be addressed around this, or are they sort of fairly common areas of need for change?
The thing that I've found mostly is that, you get some dinosaurs, right? They're still out there, but most people that I've challenged around these issues, it's been sort of either an unconscious bias, or they're so flat out trying to get the team together that they assemble a team, or they give you a particular lineup for an assignment, and you point it out and they go, oh, and they're quite visibly shocked. And so I actually think unconscious bias is a big, pervading factor in the profession at the moment. I think a lot of people want to do well, or good, I should say, but it's just the velocity of work and the everybody's so much busier these days. The pressure's on, so they almost lead like on the dashboard of your car. You need like almost a warning light that. So you're picking up on these things.
I'm really interested in how men move from being bystanders, possibly, you know, a bit of unconscious bias, possibly just, look, that's not my deal. That's about gender and diversity. How do you have those conversations, and how do you influence peer-to-peer with your male colleagues?
I find that there's two camps. Yeah. So there's what I call the unconscious bias camp, where it's just a gentle reminder. It's like pointing out that, you know, this has occurred, and the example is, you know, the mix in the client engagement team, yeah. Like that general reminder, and 99 times out of 100, I've found it's like, oh yeah, you're right, and then there's been a really positive engagement to do the rebalance or remediate. Where I've found a little bit of backlash is where I talk about these points of power. There are certain ones, and I'll give an example. You know, when you're invited to a lunch and there's going to be a prominent speaker from, you know, a prominent stakeholder in the ATO, if you have that ability to be at the lunch, then, you know, you will either maintain or initiate that relationship. Now, there was a lunch that I went to, it was about a year ago, and it was just a joke. You know, the balance was that bad that I think that the only two females in the room were the two presenters from government. All the rest were either male partners from the relevant firm or male heads of tax. And I remember challenging the firm. I didn't do it, you know, at the lunch, you know, respectfully, but after the lunch I sent an email and I said, listen, I know it's hard given the current makeup of the Australian tax profession, but could you have rebalanced your representatives from the firm, you know, just to try and even up the numbers? And I got a couple of phone calls in response to that. One was really positive, but the other one was, well, I hold the relationship with government. And I said, well, you may, but, you know, for the future sustainability of your firm, shouldn't you have like a number two? So there was this really hostile reaction to me sort of challenging that point of power.
Yeah.
And that led to a fairly frank conversation where I find in these scenarios you're better off just straight between the eyes. And I said, well, if you think that way, well, you're damaging your brand, because I wasn't the only head of tax that was thinking the same thing.
Yes, yes.